My mother-in-law tried to ruin our gender reveal party. I've spent years trying to understand what exactly I did to make Carol hate me. When I say hate, I don't mean mild disapproval or awkward tension. I mean active, intentional, strategized hostility. The kind of behavior where if you told someone who wasn't there, they'd say, "Surely she didn't mean it like that." Oh, but she always did mean it like that, every single time. It started almost immediately when Matthew and I began dating. She didn't like the way I dressed. My job wasn't aspirational enough, and once she asked if I planned to do anything about my hairline, because my forehead was quite dominant, and she'd hate to think of how her grandchildren would suffer because of that. She behaved like Matthew was auditioning girlfriends for her approval rather than building a life of his own. By the time we got engaged, she began treating me like a temporary inconvenience that she just needed to outlast. I thought maybe the wedding planning would melt the ice. Weddings are about love, families coming together, hearts opening, all that idealistic stuff. But if anything, it got worse. At our wedding, she looked miserable in every single photo. Not accidentally, not caught off guard, but with full commitment. Arms crossed, frown in place, eyes narrowed. She walked like someone attending a memorial service instead of her son's celebration. I've had friends and relatives who look at the photos and mutter, "Was she okay that day?" She was perfectly fine. She just wanted documented evidence that she didn't approve. And then came the dance situation. Traditionally, the father-daughter dance comes after the first dance. She cornered Matthew and demanded a mother-son dance before mine and my dad's because, and I quote, "a mother comes before a wife." She wanted her moment to be grander, longer, and prioritized. She pitched it like a small, adorable idea in terms of the words she used, but she said it with the energy of someone threatening legal action. When I said no, she acted like I'd slapped her across the face with the wedding invitations. Matthew initially agreed with me, which surprised her so much she actually gasped. But later I found out he only stayed firm because a couple of friends he had texted about the conflict told him the request was, quote, "weird AF." He didn't defend me because he saw how inappropriate she was. He did it because he didn't want to look like a man-child in front of his friends. And that memory stayed lodged inside me, and it grew heavier over time. After the wedding, her behavior got more creative. She scheduled family photos on the only day she knew I was working and Matthew was off, and then told me, "We figured you wouldn't mind since you're not technically blood." When the pandemic hit, she tried persuading Matthew to move back home with her, just for safety. Now, Matthew and I are both first responders, and we were both exposed to the virus often. Matthew argued that it would obviously be safer for Carol not to have either of us around, given her relatively poor health and older age. She acted like I could cost her life in my line of work, but my husband, in basically the same line of work, was fine to be around. Carol said a few times that if she were to pass away, I'd be to blame. But yet, she was perfectly happy to offer that Matthew could come home to her every day with the same exposure risk at me. Work that out made no sense at all. But the worst, the absolute worst, was Thanksgiving. She added nuts to most of the dishes. The stuffing, which was also inside the turkey, the green bean casserole, the muffins she made instead of having the usual dinner rolls. Oh, and she had basted the turkey, not with butter, but with peanut oil, so the turkey and the gravy were completely out of the question. She announced this casually at the table only after I asked which items were safe because of my allergy. When I said there wasn't much I could eat, she actually responded with, "Well, we can't all give up our wants for one person, can we now?" We left without eating, but not after Carol caused a scene, crying, shouting, telling Matthew what a huge mistake he'd made marrying me. So when I became pregnant, I braced myself. I expected she would either try to attach herself like a second umbilical cord, or she'd rage that the universe had allowed me to produce her grandchild. Her reaction? Fake enthusiasm, congratulatory words, but irritated body language. She started posting online about becoming a grandmother, but never mentioned me. I was just the vessel, apparently. The gender reveal planning became like a military operation, not because I'm dramatic, but because Carol doesn't believe boundaries apply to her. My mom and closest friends organized what they called Operation No Nonsense. Their number one goal: do not let Carol hijack the moment. Carol arrived with a tray of cookies. No one trusted her, and the smell of peanuts lingered in my kitchen. I watched my mom and friends whisk them away to the trash like trained agents. No guilt, no explanation, no apology. When it was time for the reveal, everyone was gathered around, and there was enough excitement to drown out my nerves, until Carol started inching forward, like a predator anticipating an opening. We cut into the cake and saw the pink inside. The clapping and cheers were instant, joyful, loud, real. I was beaming. But just like always, she tried to steal the moment. She shoved past people, not nudged or squeezed, she shoved. When she reached Matthew, she practically threw herself on him. "Oh, Matthew, my baby!" she cried, purposely loud enough that it redirected attention. She hugged him in a way that blocked me completely. Her whole body was strategically placed, her back to me, her front towards Matthew and everyone else, claiming emotional property rights. I waited for him to do what he normally does: freeze, look overwhelmed, and let her have the moment so that things wouldn't get messy. But he didn't. For the first time in the entire time I've known him, he didn't just allow her behavior. He gently removed her arms and simply said, "No, Mom," as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. No shouting, no scene, no apology. He just chose me. He turned to me, picked me up carefully, kissed me, and spun me once. I didn't even care about the clapping. I cared that he finally showed everyone he was done letting her run the emotional operations. And because Carol can never settle for simply standing down or standing back, she threw herself, and I do mean she literally threw herself, onto the grass and claimed I kicked her. Using her full dramatic voice, she yelled, "She kicked me! She attacked me! You all saw it!" No one saw anything because nothing like that had happened. People looked at her, not worried but tired. The second-hand embarrassment was written across everyone's faces. My mom marched over to her with absolute calm and said, "Get up, Carol. If you can't be happy about being a grandmother, at least don't throw a tantrum." Carol stopped screaming. She got up slowly and looked around, trying to find sympathy, but she had exhausted the last of it years ago. For the rest of the day, she hovered at the edge of the crowd. Everyone else hugged us, celebrated us, asked about names, and talked about nursery colors. And every time I looked at Matthew, I didn't just see the man I married. I saw the father my daughter would have, one who finally understood that protecting his family wasn't always going to be compatible with pacifying his mother. Carol won't ever like me. I don't think she'll ever like anyone who threatens her emotional monopoly. But she won't be helping to raise my daughter, and she doesn't get to teach her what love looks like. That's my job and Matthew's job, and I feel safe after today, knowing that our baby will come first in both of our lives. If you enjoyed this reading and want to hear more, please subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. Please hit the like button and check out our playlists of family drama stories, Am I the A-Hole posts, or Tales of Entitled People. You'll find those lists and many more at our channel. This has been Tales by Rachel, where we breathe life into every story.